Okay, that's on a stop button. Sweet. Okay. Alrighty. Here we go. Oh yeah, that's a good noise. Okay, in an effort to have as little of me in the picture as possible, I'm going to go ahead and get my clay centered. This is the old school throwing off the mound method, which is so much fun. It's also called off the hump or phooey on this, I don't want to get up. Also a good name. So, first off, you gotta get this bad boy centered. Hands nice and slick, clay nice and slick. And a push and pull, using sort of the blade of one side of your hand, the fingers of the other. Got my wheel spinning counterclockwise because awesome. And just using a little bit of compression there, bringing the clay up. When it's centered, you'll feel it. Okay, this is higher than I want, so I'm going to go ahead and just compress it back down, which is cool because you can push it to the side and it just naturally wants to find its way back home to center. Now, as you're compressing the clay, make sure you bring in your hands more and more towards the top. You don't want it forming like a little divot with the clay coming up over the sides. That kind of little divot will trap air, it'll trap water, and it's pretty much saying, yes, I want my piece to crack. Go ahead. And I'm doing this sort of up and down coning thingy just a couple times to make sure the clay is all nice and homogenized. It's got like equal levels of moisture throughout. Okay, I'm about ready to start. I'm flattening the top with the meaty part of my hand there. Once your clay is all nice and centered, you want to make your thumb well. To do that, we're going to take both thumbs and just sort of take and push them straight down in, as far as they'll go without your hands coming up. Up is weak. We don't like that. So I'm just going to go ahead, push both thumbs in. Going a little fast, but you get the idea. So to widen that a little, I just sort of using my right hand, just sort of like a sign language B, I push my thumb in towards the this area here, and just use that to pull the clay outwards and give it a little bit of shape. That's uneven, so I'm gonna go ahead and squeeze it back in. I'm keeping my other hand there just to keep the clay nice and firm. Okay, and I'm ready to widen it. I'm just going to make a little bowl here. So to widen it, I'm going to do sort of this little dog puppet action. I'm going to reach in, grab the clay, and slowly move it upwards. I've got my other hand here as a support. Keep your thumb in, because if it's around, you're just going to like cut it off real easy. So keep your hand as a support against your thumb, just so that it all works together. You always want your hands to move in tandem. So there you can see I'm just pinching the clay a little bit, and slowly moving this whole mess upwards. If the clay ever feels sticky, get your hands wet, just pull them away, get them nice and wet. Wet the clay and continue where you left off. There, just going right up and around. Starting to get a nice nice bowlish shape here. Lips a little uneven, but that's just a bit of personality. Okay, so now I've got a small lake that's formed on the inside there. Get my sponge, wring it out real good. Just plop that in there to take care of the soggy area. Go right up and over that lip. There, stick it on my water bucket there so I don't lose it. And now the fun part, when it comes to taking your piece off of the hump, is figuring out just where to go. So I'm going to use my little scoopy tool. It's got a nice little shovel edge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the bottom of my piece is about here. So I'm going to go in just about below that, just a little, so that I have a good chunk of clay down there. And all of that clay is going to get carved into my foot ring. After this bad boy dries up a bit. Got a piece of string here to cut it off. Get it nice and wet. Just going to put that right through there. Pull it through. Peace sign, peace sign. And up and off it goes. So there is my cute little bowl. It'll have a lot more definition after I trim it. And we're going to cut off that little loose end there. I'm going to take my lump of clay. This is the I don't want to get up and get fresh clay method. So I'm just recentering it. I'm going to make my next little bowl. Flatten the top with my palm. Do this all in, see if I can do this all in one nice smooth motion so you really get an idea of just how fluid this whole process gets to be. That's one of the really cool things about pottery, is that when you get to a certain stage, you start getting this sort of economy of motion, you know, where you're not moving very much. It's like, how much can I do with as few moves as possible? Get the clay wet. And just expand the bottom a little. I'm not really going for any particular shape other than bowl. Squeeze out my sponge. Scoopy tool to start to separate it off of my big old lump of clay. And just pull through. There's this nice piece. It'll be a cute little cereal bowl one day. That chunk of clay can always be reclaimed. I don't know if you can see on this camera, but at all times I sort of have my arms braced against some part of my body, and it just helps to give you a much more sturdier way of working. So like I have my elbow on a knee, Got the other elbow on my... That's not my knee, that's a thigh. Ugh. I'm terrible at this today. Okay. Okay, so just to shake it up a little bit, I'm going to use a nice little metal rib on the edge. Next time I'll put my camera on the other side. I forget I'm left-handed and not everybody wants to see just the dull part on this part. Alright, so what I'm going to do with my little metal rib, I'm going to hold it sort of bent. I'm going to take it into the bottom of the piece and just sort of work my way up on the outside, keeping my left hand here on the inside. So that's going to be going up and just sort of keeping them nice and working together. Let's see if I can do this without throwing it off the wheel, because naturally, if I'm videoing this, there we go. And this can just help you get a nice uniform look to things. I'll do it one more time for fun. There we go. Oh yeah, round. I like rounded shapes, they're so much fun. I'm always looking for things that are going to be really interesting to hold. You can hear that noise in the background. That was a whole fleet of motorcycles going by. Crystal River, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so take my sponge, clear up the small lake on the inside. Kind of see how much water was in there. See if I can't splash it on my computer keyboard again. Alright. Just real quick, we're going to touch the edge there, make sure that's nice and smooth and pleasant. Okay. Now this is one of the good things about throwing off the hump like this, is that when you make this little gully down here, it sort of supports the piece, so you can do a very thin piece and not have to worry about it distorting too much after you lift it. Or you can just use a bat, like a baby. There we go. Just cut right through. Peace sign, peace sign. Right in there, and you get minimal distortion. There's that nice little piece. He's all good and round. I can't get to my wear board. There it is. Okay. Okay, so again, I center the clay. Make my thumb well. Another great thing about throwing off the mound or off the hump, or I don't want to get up, is just that. You don't have to get up every time you need a new chunk of clay. It really lets you start developing a rhythm. Ideally, you put enough clay on there, you can sit there for a good 20-30 minutes and just sort of zen out and make bowl after bowl after bowl. It's really good if you want to make multiples. So then you can just sit there, and as you start developing the certain kind of muscle memory to get the exact shape that you want, it's nice not to have any interruptions. Speaking of interruptions, my shop is open today. I'm kind of hoping nobody comes in and interrupts the process here. I finally got brave enough to record this, so Alright, I'm going to use my nice little metal rib on the outside here to give it a little shape. Take off some of that extra slip. There we go. Look at all that gunk I got off there. Clay is so wonderfully recyclable. Anything that's not good enough goes right into the big old reclaim bucket. And then I make one of my poor students do all the wedging and reclaim work. Bwahaha. Okay, so going in, taking off a little of that extra clay down at the base. Just pulling it right off. All that stuff I'm dumping right back onto my wedging table so I can reuse it right away. There we go. And lift, and there's my nice next little bowl. Uh-oh. Should have moved my wear board before slapping it on there. Previous guys. It's always good to have a bunch of boards ready, so that way you can just keep going and not interrupt the general flow. That last little bit of clay. Thumb well. Opening the piece. You know, really, once it's big enough for your fingers to fit in there, you can go ahead and throw with your preferred method. There's no real wrong way to throw. There's just sort of what works and what doesn't. So you start out with one way, and once you get the hang of it, you see somebody else like on YouTube or a teacher somewhere going, hey, try it this way. So you give it a try, and just more tools in the toolbox. And you notice as I'm working here, I never pull my hands away super quick from the clay. You want to get this sort of easy on, easy off motion. So like never touch it when it's not spinning, just so that you don't accidentally misshapen it. If you pull your hand away too fast, you'll get that nice little flip in the lip that is so common on beginner stuff. I've been at this only about 11 years, so I still consider myself a good bit of beginner. Pottery is one of those lifetime art forms. A nice round little guy. Dry it out. Okay, where did that tool go? Oh, there we go. Now it's always a little more difficult when you're throwing off the mound to finally get down to the wheel head. Take some of this extra clay off so it's not in the way. See, that actually warped it a little bit. Whatever. Another good thing about clay is it's just so darn flexible. When it gets to the leather hard stage, you can kind of go in and move it around a little bit here and there, even things out just a bit. Okay. Just feed it in right to the narrow part of that little gully. Hope I don't drop it. There we go. And that's done. And the rest is just cleaning off my wheel, so that's boring. Peace.